Hello everyone, this is ToadinWonderland and welcome back to more of Let's Play Pokemon Emerald version. And this is also the first video where I am doing this post-commentary instead of live commentary. I really didn't have too much reason within the game with why I'm doing this. Part of it is that all of the past week before this video is being uploaded I was sick, and when I attempted to record this, I got the video fine, but when I reflected back on the live commentary, it just wasn't working out that well, so I figured the best thing to do was just to redo the commentary. And here I'm showing the items. Zigzagoon had actually picked up a couple things, such as the Full Heal, the X Attack, and the Antidote. And as a matter of fact, it also had a potion right there just a couple seconds ago. That's because of its pickup ability, which is pretty good to have. That way it saves me from having to buy all sorts of junk at the shops, pretty much. And, yeah, that's about it. And off-screen, as you can tell just by looking at the levels of my Pokemon, they did go up a few levels, and a few of them did learn some new moves. As a matter of fact, the Lotad got Absorb, and if I'm not mistaken, I actually have it written down here, hold on. I had to write down all kinds of notes here because I really was just not up to speed in my own head on what I did, what I didn't do. And one of those things is what level the Pokemon learned different moves, and the Lotad learned Absorb at level 7. Okay, I finally found it here on my little cheat sheet, I guess you could say. And the Zigzagoon had Tail Whip. I don't know if it had that in the last video or not, but it learns that at level 5. If for some reason I didn't show that earlier. There's also going to be... I took advantage of the fact that this is post-commentary, by the way, and I made a couple parts here in the video that you'll see later where I just make a transition just to cut out some of the fat in between, if you know what I mean. And here Merlin, aka Ralts, grew up to level 6 and learned Confusion, so it can finally attack on its own now. And Confusion's a good move to have early on in the game. Just like with the earlier generations, the first generation, second generation, getting a Psychic Pokemon as early as possible is never a bad thing, and as a matter of fact, it's probably one of the best things you could do in any playthrough of Pokemon. And here we continue on with more trainer battles. While some of this is going on, I'm going to take advantage of the time now and cover a couple things that I wanted to address that other people have asked me about, and things about this LP in general. First off, as a general reminder, if you didn't catch this in the first video, I am accepting requests for nicknames to give Pokemon. If you want to suggest something, that's fine, go right ahead. It could be for pretty much anything I catch in the wild. As a matter of fact, looking back, I did get one, and it actually was a suggestion that matched what I had in mind for that Pokemon as well. And yeah. Oh, and there's a Tailo, by the way. Later on, we'll be catching one, just a heads up. Oh, and I forgot to mention here, I also did more off-screening, which should transition here. I got a little confused, I spoke a little too soon. Sly Cooper just learned Headbutt at level 9 there. That's a very handy move for it to have early on in the game, because Headbutt does a base damage of 70, and there was the cut I was talking about, by the way. Yeah, I just did a transition there because I was just kind of wasting time in between and blabbing. I think I was actually blabbing on there, kind of like what I am now, but I wasn't moving around or anything. So yeah, that's why I just took out, as I said earlier, cut out some of the fat. Pardon me, cut out some of the fat. My voice almost died there. Even in post-commentary, stuff like this happens. It might be some after effects from the flu I had. If I didn't mention that already, I was sick with the flu. And it was pretty nasty. It really kept me from wanting to do anything. I mean, I could talk okay, but I was just ugh. With a really sick feeling. And I just did not feel well at all. I really didn't. I just didn't want to get out of bed or anything. And it lasted a while too. It wasn't just like a simple 24-hour flu bug. This lasted for days. And it was terrible. I was like so achy. As I said, I just wanted to lay in bed and not get up at all. Like, that's how bad it was. I never had a flu that was this bad. And I'm glad it's gone. I mean, I can finally return to recording more videos. I'm getting behind though because of it. As a matter of fact, when I'm recording this now, this video technically should have been up for this past Friday at the time I'm recording this. And here it's Monday morning and this is going on. Yeah, that just shows you pretty much where I'm at. Back to what I was saying earlier though about the nicknames. There's somewhat of an exception right now. If you suggest a nickname now to give a Pokemon that I might catch later, I probably will see it pretty quickly, I'm gonna say. But in a general rule of thumb though is I like to record about 6 or 7 days, usually like a week in advance of before I actually post the video up. It's not always that long ahead of time. Sometimes it is only like 5 days. But if you just want to suggest a nickname, just keep in mind it could be like a few videos till I actually like acknowledge that you had suggested something or just posted a comment. Just a general comment, really. Like, I mean, I'll see it, but like until I mention it in another video, it might be a few videos later, and it's like, oh, this person said about, you know, they wanted to give this nickname to this Pokemon, and it's like, I already caught it, and it's like, oops. But yeah. So it's fine, like, I mean, try not to spoil too much. I highly doubt there's too many people watching that have never played Pokemon Emerald, to be honest. Or if they haven't played Emerald, they probably have at least played a Pokemon game of some kind, and have some general knowledge of the Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald games, I'm gonna say. So, but basically, I'd appreciate it if it wasn't like spoilers as far as like what the plot's gonna be. But you can still give the name of the Pokemon, just as I said, just don't like spoil the plot whenever you leave a comment like that. By the way, we're in Petalburg after all that blabbing. And it's actually a coincidence that this happens to also be the name of one of the cities you go to in the game Paper Mario Thousand Year Door, also known as the abbreviation TTYD. Ruby, Sapphire, and well, not Emerald, but Ruby and Sapphire came out first, so Petalburg City was unique to it at the time. And then shortly after that, Paper Mario Thousand Year Door came out, and what do you know, one of the first cities you visit on that game, or I guess it's a village, not really a city, is called Petalburg, though. So, like I said, quite a coincidence there, huh? And there you can see your reflection in the water. That was actually, like, a really well-admired mechanic of this game. And oh, just thought I'd point out here, this guy here thinks we're a rookie. Well, at this point in the game, I guess we are, technically, but, you know. Anyway, I guess before I continue on, we have a little bit of plot significance going on here. This guy's telling us where we can take on the Pokemon gyms in the games. And in Petalburg City, we have run into the gym here, which he's shown us. Funny thing, though, once I gain control there we go. Once we step inside, guess who we see? That's right. If you remember earlier, we seen him on TV. It's Dad. So yeah, our dad on the game is the gym leader of Petalburg City. And yeah, he's kind of having a little father-son discussion with us as far as Pokemon goes. Boy, I wish I had something like that with my own dad. In real life, my dad's like... he has like a mixed opinion of Pokemon. I don't really know how to describe it. It's just one of those generation things, I guess. Like, you know, you gotta kind of grow up with it as a kid in order to fully appreciate it. But there's some newer kids, like, well, not really newer, but like younger kids today that are experiencing Pokemon for the first time, and they love it still. The main difference, though, is the generation where they're starting to pick up on it, though. Like, they're not used to seeing Bulbasaur, Charmander, Squirtle, any of, like, the very first Pokemon that we, like people around my age would have seen, I guess you could say. But anyway, here we have a little plot significance as well. A kid named Wally has come in to talk to our dad about catching his first Pokemon. So our dad sends us out with him, and as we go outside, back to Route 103, or no, I'm sorry, 102. I got the numbers mixed up. But what do you know? The Pokemon that he runs into is a level 5 Ralts. Funny, why couldn't we encounter that on our first try? No, really, I'm actually glad we did find Ralts when we did, because, in all honesty, Ralts is very, very rare to find on this game. So, that's why, you know, this is just like, oh, quite a coincidence that Wally runs into a Ralts. Although, as you can tell, this battle's staged. So, he automatically gets it, basically. But, Wally, we're gonna see, you could probably tell by this already, we'll be seeing Wally again throughout the rest of the game a few times. He kind of functions as the game's second rival to us. We probably won't see him, as a matter of fact, I know we won't run into him as much as May, but still, he kind of functions as another rival that we'll face off against a couple times. And he's also starting Pokemon out around the same time as us, so generally, his Pokemon are going to grow as ours do. But anyway, we return back to Dad to let him know about the good news of Wally catching his first Pokemon. And I also found it interesting, sorry I didn't mention it during the battle, but that Zigzagoon was at level 7 and it only knew Tackle. That was weird. Like I said, because it knows Growl and Tail Whip in addition to that at that point in time, so it's just strange it didn't have those moves. But anyway, you would think we could take on our dad here, since he's the first gym leader we run into. But guess what? He's telling us to collect badges from other gyms. And he says that even though he's a gym leader, we have to become stronger. So he's telling us to go to Rustboro City instead. There's no challenge for him to battle us, since we're a greenhorn. Well, thanks a lot, Dad. But yeah, he's pretty much telling you there, you have to get... He'll only accept a battle with you once you've gotten 4 gym leader badges from other cities. Or gym badges, not gym leader. Well, you know what I mean. You need 4 badges from other cities, and then he'll finally fight you. And by the way, his name's Norman. I don't think I mentioned that, but yeah. And if you can't figure it out, the Pokemon games, well, this one at least, I mean, all of them in general, they have it where the gym leader's name is like a punny reference to what type they usually use. Not all the gym leaders, but most of them. So in that case, he was called Norman, so based on that, you could probably figure out, oh, click, he likes normal type Pokemon. And you're correct. That's indeed the type he'll use when you face off against him. But, as he had pointed out, that'll be later. Not now. But anyway, that was the main plot significance that takes place there. Here I kind of like explore the rest of the city to talk to the different residents. I'm really surprised none of them really do much as far as like extras go. They're just there for extra conversations, really. Like, but beyond that, they don't like give you any other items or anything special like that. But and like I said, I just showed off these conversations. I mean, I don't have to, but well, it is in the game, so you might as well show what some of them say. I'll have a couple other topics here to address here too, but I think something else happens here as I leave the city, so let's see quick. Yes, this dude runs into us. I was right. Excuse me, he says. Okay, is the conversation going to continue? Okay, so yeah, he's curious to know if we're a Pokemon trainer, and obviously we are, but in his eyes, our clothes aren't all that dirty, so based on the amount of dirt on our clothes, we're by default not a Pokemon trainer in his eyes. I just think that's a really retarded observation. It's like, haven't you heard the expression, don't judge a book by its cover? I mean, seriously. But anyway, here is Route 104 at last. I mean, it finally took us a while to get here, so I'm glad to be at this route already. I guess I could talk about this quick. On Route 104, the Pokemon you can find are Poochyena, which is actually the most common you'll find on this route. You'll find a lot of them here. You can also find Marill, Wingull, Tailo, and Wurmple. Those are here as well. And I'll actually be catching a bunch of them here. I actually make a couple video cuts here. As a matter of fact, the first one's right here. Well, Poochyena I found relatively quick, but the first two Pokemon I ran into were actually Wurmples. So, yeah, and you can tell the levels of my Pokemon are slightly different as well. Because I did even more grinding in between these battles as well. I apologize that I don't, like, show when I get new moves all the time. I don't know if that bothers anybody or not. I'll try to state what levels you get those new moves at, but if I miss something, I'm sorry. I just mainly cut out these battles in between, because from this point on, a lot of us had seen a bunch of wild Pokemon battles already, so, you know, that gets a bit repetitive, so that's why I cut out some of them. And as I said earlier, this is post-commentary, so I might as well take advantage of the fact that I can do this, basically, without awkward transitions, I guess you could say. Cut out all the fat. I'm gonna say, that's like the third or fourth time I said that already. I initially wanted to use Poochyena on the team, but after a little while I decided not to really bother with it. Poochyena in general is a relatively weak Pokemon. Even when it evolves into Mightyena, or Mightyena, whatever you like to call it, it's still not the greatest Pokemon. It's basically a dark Rattata / Raticate, if you want to look at it that way. But anyway, I know this one's a female, but I decided to give it this nickname nonetheless that you'll see here soon. I sound like SpongeBob saying that in that one episode. The Grim. Yeah, even though it's a girl, I call it the Grim. After Sirius Black, of course, from the Harry Potter series, so if you didn't know what that reference was to, there you go. Because he was an animagus. But I made another cut here. I'm actually going to be cutting to each time I catch a new Pokemon, as well as showing the new Pokemon you can find on the route. Pretty much every cut I make shows me catching that Pokemon. Now, I know I did say earlier that I'm not going to be doing a 100% Pokédex run, but early on in the game, I tend to catch whatever I can find right away. So, that's just how I usually play it. I do typically, like, catch as many as possible, just because I like to get as many as I can, obviously. But, as I said in this playthrough of the game, since it just takes a while, I'll try not to do that as much as I can. Just because, like I said, it just kind of takes a lot of time to do all that. I'll try to keep in mind to show as much as I can, though. But if I miss something, I'm sorry, but that's just how it is. And I did state at the beginning of the project that, you know, this wasn't a full Pokédex run of the game, so... Meaning National and Hoenn both, like, if you were wondering about that aspect as well. But anyway, in general, this video is going to be long. I already see that right now. It's at the 30-minute mark, as a matter of fact. And I was kind of hoping it wouldn't have dragged that long, but there really was no... I don't know how to describe this, really. Like, there was no, like, ideal place to really stop. You'll see what I mean as I keep playing here, I guess. But, and I also lost track of the time a bit, like, when I was catching new Pokemon in between. And plus, I did some extra grinding, too, to get my Pokemon's levels up a bit. And there I finally caught Marill, after a few failed attempts. Yeah, Aqua Mouse Pokemon. Marill's not much of an attacker, though. It does have high HP, though. So if you can figure out, the EV points, I guess you could say, it gives is the HP EVs, I guess you could say. But I give it the nickname. This is from my fondness of Alice in Wonderland, Dormouse. I would have called it the Dormouse, but there was not enough room for that. But there you go. Since it was a mouse, I decided to give it that nickname. And here I make another cut to show the next Pokemon I find and capture. I tried to look for a female Wingull instead, but it just wasn't working out. So I just settled with catching the first thing I found. For some reason, I had terrible luck finding Wingull in general. Wingull's not supposed to be this hard to find. It appears as often as pretty much most of the other Pokemon this route, so I really couldn't figure out why I wasn't finding it fast enough. But it gives me problems as well, just like the Marill did, as you can see. It won't stay in the Pokeball. But I do keep trying. And I eventually get it, so that's good. There we go, I finally caught it. And since this is a male Wingull instead of female, I kind of had to improvise, but I actually did have an idea that popped in my head right at that time when I caught it, so thank goodness for that. For my Wingull, I decided to call it Nigel. Not so much after Nigel Thornberry, but there's a pelican called Nigel on the Disney Pixar movie Finding Nemo. When Wingull evolves, that nickname will make more sense. And here's the last Pokemon I catch on this route, by the way. It's a Tailo, which is a barn swallow bird Pokemon, I guess. Yeah, it's a barn swallow. Well, I don't know necessarily a barn, quote-unquote barn swallow, but it's a swallow Pokemon. Or swallow bird, I mean. The coloring gives that away. They are kind of nice, by the way. Like in real life, I've seen swallows around where I live, and they are pretty nice birds. I do like them a lot. And as a matter of fact, I guess I should have said this a bit sooner, but now better late than never, so. The Wingull and the Tailo I caught, I do put on my team. Neither of them are permanent members, but they're good to have early on in the game, which is why I decided to keep them. And I finally caught a female. So for the Tailo, I give it the nickname after a pretty well-famous poem written by Edgar Allan Poe known as The Raven, Nevermore. Now, I know Tailo's not a raven, but close enough. And I did a cut here because I did major grinding in between for all of these Pokemon. As you can see, Tailo got a new move. When I caught it, it only had the first 3, but it learns Quick Attack. And I had to get my cheat sheet again, I'm sorry. Yeah, I really wish I had these memorized, like, so I don't have to, like, keep referencing my own stuff whenever something like this happens. But Tailo learns Quick Attack at level 8. And the Trico learned Quick Attack as well at level 11. That kind of happened accidentally as I was looking for Pokemon in between. But yeah, that was mainly what all the grinding I did there was mainly for the Tailo and Wingull. Oh, and I guess I should point out, the Wingull did not have Supersonic when I caught it right away either. It didn't learn that until level 7. Okay, yes, that's right. Okay, at least my predictions for those were right. Anyways, a couple other topics I think I'll address here since I'm finally done with showing all the Pokemon I catch, and since we have some trainer battles to go over here. There's not too many of them, but there's a few. Anyways, next topic I want to address here is, you've probably heard me mention about EVs there just a little bit ago. Yes, I am aware of what they are. I'm aware of how the system works. As a matter of fact, Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald introduced the current format of how EV training works. From this point on, this is how it is, starting with the Ruby and Sapphire games. And basically how it works, if you have no idea what EV training is as you battle Pokemon, they grant what's known as EVs. And if you keep defeating a specific kind of Pokemon, such as the, what I said earlier about the Marill, it gives you the HP EV. You get 1 EV for HP for each Marill you defeat. And how it works is once you repeatedly battle certain Pokemon that grant more and more EVs for a stat, the stats as you level up will start to increase in the amount of points you're rewarded. So you can get it really high. You can get it to where instead of increasing by only like 1 or 2 points, you can get it where it's like triple basically, or even more. It still goes up higher than that. It can go up to like +8, I think, or more. I think it can really go that high. The EV, because that's how the EV trading works. It's calculated based on how many EVs of that stat you have by the time you level up, and it works where you can only get like a combined total of 510, and you can't max out. I think it's 200. I want to say 252 EVs for one stat. I think that's right. I'm sorry if I'm wrong about that. I think I'm right though. I think it's 252 for any one stat. But anyway, that's how it basically works. As far as me doing that, I'm not gonna like consciously do it, because number one, it's really hard to keep track of. EVs are pretty much a hidden feature / bonus in the game as it is. So there's really no like point tracker that's displayed on the stats of the Pokemon for you, so you kind of have to guess at what EVs they have if you're not keeping track of it from Battle 1, like when you capture them. And it's just really hard. It's time consuming as well. It really takes a lot of time, like grinding, just to get all the EVs for certain stats if you give it to a Pokemon. So with that said, you know, it's just really difficult to keep track of, so it's just something I'm not gonna really focus on. But anyway, that was just the basics I wanted to address with the EV training. It's something that I'm not specifically doing, but I know what it is and I know how it works, but basically, as I said, I'm not really gonna like do a complete playthrough of that. But that's just all I wanted to say about it. The next thing I want to address, this is probably the final thing I'm going to say here, because I can't believe it's actually, the video's almost over here in a few minutes. But something else that I wanted to talk about quick was shiny Pokemon, I guess. I'm aware that they exist, and there's also something known as IVs, which is individual values. Unfortunately, you have no control whatsoever on them. That's just kind of an automatic random thing that your Pokemon get. And depending on the IVs, by the way, we have entered Petalburg Woods. So I'm going to pause here for a second on my discussion of IVs and shiny Pokemon. In the Petalburg Woods, you can find a good bit of Pokemon. A lot of them you've already seen at some point in time. But here you can capture a Wurmple, which obviously is really common. You can also find Silcoon and Cascoon, which are the evolved forms of Wurmple. I guess I should have caught a Wurmple so I could show how that worked a bit, but I don't know. I'll think about it the next time I record, if I show that or not. And I know I kind of said I wasn't going to show all the Pokemon I catch, but yeah, you know. Basically, Wurmple randomly evolves into Silcoon or Cascoon, and I think the time of the day actually does affect it, but the variation is like so random, it's really hard to tell. But anyway, you can find those 3 Pokemon here in the grass. You can also find Shroomish, which I might find. I'm not sure if I'll catch one or not. Someone had actually suggested a nickname for it, which was actually a nickname I thought was good, because I thought the same nickname myself. But, it'd have to be a female Shroomish if I do catch it. But, we'll see if that happens or not in the next video, when I go back to live commentary. You can also find Tailo in the Petalburg Woods, so let's go over the list again quick. You can find Wurmple, Cascoon, Silcoon, Tailo, Shroomish, and you can also find Slackoth, which is a sloth Pokemon, but its chances of appearing are pretty slim. It is rare to find in the Petalburg Woods, but if I'm not mistaken, this is one of the only areas I think you can find it. So, if you want it, you gotta get it here. And I actually would recommend getting it, if you're okay with dealing with its ability Truant, which means it only attacks every other turn. But to make up for that loss, it has like a really high attack stat, so, you know, it's a give and take scenario, but you can get it to work to your advantage if you do it just right. But anyway, I know I was going to talk about shiny Pokemon IVs, but I'm actually out of time here, so I'm going to actually stop the recording here. This is ToadinWonderland. I will see you guys back with live commentary, and another video of Pokemon Emerald will be up soon. So until then, see you guys later.